Good evening, everybody. It is March 12th. We start by reading our vision statement. The Ashland Public Schools is committed to being at the forefront of student achievement by preparing students to be college and career ready while promoting independence, respect, and critical thinking skills necessary to succeed as problem solvers in the 21st century. This meeting is being recorded by WACA Cable TV. This evening, we will start with the opportunity for the public to be heard. We'll have recognition of achievement, student presentation, which we've got some guests here this evening, which we're very excited about. We'll review some minutes, student representative update, superintendent, assistant superintendent, and director of curriculum reports, gifts and donations, and our special topics this evening will be a discussion and vote on student travel request, AMS to Washington, D.C., AHS Make-A-Wish Club to Florida, AHS Music Department to Boston. We'll have discussion and vote on school bus transportation contract, discussion and vote on proposed memorial on school property, discussion and vote on kindergarten tuition rates, update on the superintendent's entry plan report, a discussion and vote on the FY16 school budget, action items, future agenda items, school committee member updates, and then we will adjourn. So we are going to start this evening for the opportunity for the public to be heard, and I see that we have a guest this evening.
I wouldn't say yes, but
Yeah, definitely, thank you.
I would say a regular citizen participation. Good evening, school committee.
Good evening.
I have been in front of people before, and this is a special emotional time for me because I know what the town and the schools are going through. I said it's like me, I'm going to say a little bit here that you guys are between a rock and a hard place. I'll premise by saying I'm very positive, but also very calm and saying it's going to take some time. It all started 10 years ago when the new school building, high school school building was being recognized and built. Then everything just came up fast, and we worked to hope the town would have gone forward with the school budget. But apparently, things came from behind, and you guys are being left holding the term of being hung up to dry because people are not helping, or the money is not coming from the state. I am one person who's gone through some educational flaws back in the years when I was a student. I went to Ashland Public Schools, and I went to Keefe Tech. I was the second class that graduated. I went to a couple of different, how you call behavior modification schools. I went through those back in the late 60s, early 70s. Is to prime up and put the mind straight going for upcoming current subject and life aheads. What you're trying to put through now is what I went through. So knowing that the school is being tied up statewide and you're not getting the money back, I called the town manager at $61,000 for the whole town. It just doesn't seem right. And when it doesn't seem right, people are just not getting that much uptight about it, the citizens and whatever, because they just see it as a school thing. I've been with the school since 1969, left 2008. This is the last time I stand up in front of the school committee was 2008. I gone over to Framingham State to help them out, and the person who brought me over to Framingham State from 2008 to 10 was Coach Andrew McKay, who's a football coach here now. He brought me over to Framingham State from here because it was not doing any, I wasn't doing any good just being around. So I went over there. But I sat it there, and I got a little laugh from it. If you cut me open, I bleed blue. It's easier to say it there because I am true to the town. This is only me. But I'm hoping the town administrators, budget people, especially the state, and you had two past people on the committee, I'm gonna say the names again, because I can't really, because they left the town high and dry when they went to Boston. Tom Santacandro and Karen Spilka, they done really not much to come back to this town for after the Ways and Means picked Karen up. And Tom Santacandro, I know he's got a son who has educational sort of sped things and all. He was the one I got closer to than Karen did because of his family. There's a future. It may not be too bright, but the future has got to be better than what it is tonight. So I'm going to put out the best wishes. Hope you guys come through, and hope the town recognizes that the school system is what puts Ashland on the map. But it's also the citizens that help put the Ashland alumni name out there. And since I was Keith Tech and not Ashland, it doesn't make a difference. I'm here tonight. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you, Mr. DeSoni. Anybody else? Okay. Seeing none, we've got recognition of achievement, and before I turn that over to you, I really just wanted to say to the community, you may have noticed for some time that Mr. Larson, Mark Larson, who's a member of our school committee, has not been sitting here for a while. He has been facing some health challenges, and it's gotten to the point where he has decided to resign so that he can take care of himself, and we wish him well. We will miss him. He was a valuable member of our school committee, and we wish him all the best. We hope he's able to come back and serve Ashland soon. I know that he wants to, and we will be moving forward. I think the spot for the remainder of his term will be on the ballot. I think there's a short time left for somebody to pull papers and get them returned on time if they want to serve the remainder of that one-year term. And again, we can't thank Mr. Larson enough for the couple years that he served us, and we wish him all the best. So before I turn that over to you guys, anybody? Recognition of achievement for you, Barbara, tonight?
We do have a number tonight of recognitions. We had a number of teams that qualified for the MIAA state tournaments for the winter season. So we'd like to recognize the boys basketball. They qualified for the Division III Central Tournament and won their opening game before losing to Uxbridge High School. The girls gymnastics, which is a co-op with Medfield and Dover Sherburne, qualified for the All-State meet for the first time in program history. Chloe Covell, Chrissy Tosti, and Caitlin Cavini led a fantastic group of Ashland participants all season long. Girls hockey, which is a co-op with Medway, Holliston, and Millis, qualified for the Division II tournament and won their opening game before losing a heartbreaker to Milton, 1-0 in a shootout. And the boys and girls swimming and diving teams, several top 10 finishes in the sectional and Division II state meet. Roger Gu was the male swimmer of the year in the Tri-Valley League. Wrestling, which is a co-op with Keith Tech, there were several top 3 finishes in the sectional meet. And sophomore Alyssa Z qualified for the New England High School Championships in the 300. So, good job, all of our teams. That was great.
Congratulations to all those athletes.
And then we have Ashland High School students for the term 2. And respect is Ermiana Mosadis. Sorry if I said it wrong. Responsibility is Robbie Pergakis. Integrity is Matt Gazzard. Involvement is Olivia Sewell. And achievement is Eric Hahn.
Thank you. All good stuff. Okay, student presentation. You're up. Yeah, if you could come over to the microphone, because then you'll be on TV, and we'll also be able to hear you.
Okay, so I'm Amelia Fonseca. I'm here to speak to you about Ashland Middle School, Student Leadership Program. This year we have done much to help our school improve in many ways. We have in the start of the year we started with success tickets, and those we handed them out throughout the school for good deeds for kids. And we have hosted dances with ASAP to support a to have an anti-drug activity for them to do. We have hosted our veterans during our annual assembly for them. We have held 2 training programs this year and last year with Dana and Deb to learn to mentor the 6th graders. This week, actually, in advisory, we have with the 6th graders, we just started, we have a group of 6th graders and we're doing icebreaker activities to get to know them. And in the future, we plan to do programs to get them comfortable with sharing with us. So if they're not comfortable sharing something with the teacher, they can share it with us and we'll be there for them.
Excellent.
That's great.
And yeah, pretty much. If anybody has any questions, there are 3 other student leaders that can answer
You guys wanna
for
come
you.
You want to come up to the microphone?
To introduce us.
So we can hear,
Introduce
tell us who
yourselves,
you
guys.
are and what grade you're in,
Yeah.
please.
I'm Ari Dinnerman.
I'm Patrick Mahoney.
And I'm Evan Travis, and we're all in the 8th grade here at AMS. So,
We all participate in student leadership. This week, as we just mentioned, we have been doing icebreaker activities that we learned from our program that we did through the school. Would you like to talk about these?
So, one example is, like Amelia said, we have been mentoring the 6th graders, especially this year. We have like for our advisory, we go down to a 6th grade advisory, and we would mentor them and kind of talk to them, do some ice-breaking games, get to know them, and so it would help get a better relationship with the younger grade.
yeah, so we are planning to do more things like that throughout the year. This week was just to really get to know the 6th graders. That's why we did most of the icebreaker challenges, but I know I talked about with the guidance counselors and Mr. D, is to go to 6th grade advisories more throughout the year to talk about different topics like bullying or just whatever, like if they're feeling something or just want to talk about whatever, they can bring that up in our discussion, or if there's something they want to talk about or are confused on or whatever, something of that sort that they feel comfortable asking us or sharing that with us. So
Speaking for all 3 of us, I think that student leadership is building the relationship between the students, because we all have had things that we would like to tell, and finally building it up is very beneficial to how the school works.
Great, do you guys have any questions?
Well, I'd just like to say too, so with these 4, and I'll come up. But these 4, just to talk, and they mentioned it, but the program started last year, so we have a company come in who trained 7th graders, just leadership training. How to build rapport with other people, how to, doing basic skills, icebreaker activities, and they worked up to what it's like to be a leader. So we're trying to create young leaders. This year as 8th graders, they were mentor trained, which sort of takes this to the next level. So the vision of it is, and they talked about it, is next year, as the program continues for its 3rd year, that in advisory, as 6th grade students are coming into the building from Mendez, that it's happening at the beginning, in September. So right away as they come into the middle school, they're developing relationships with students, so it's, as the middle school can be, and they were there, I was saying over here, they've been there, it can be a big scary place, and the transition for some students can be a challenge, that they have students who've been there, older students, and the 6th graders very much look up to the 8th grade students. And they can find this group who will listen to them, will connect with them, understands what it's like to be them. And as much as our teachers make that effort, there's an advisor in the classroom as well, it's not just students, of course, but they can connect at a level, of course, where sometimes teachers can't reach. So they're doing the icebreaker and going through this process this spring, with the goal being in September, that group will work with the incoming students to be able to mentor them. And this group comes in and trains more students and works on more activities, gives us a curriculum so that they'll have talking points with the students. So topics like peer relationships and bullying and even just being positive and kindness and respect, some really basic pillars of our 2nd step program are sort of weaved within this program And I'm just happy that we have these 4. We have 20 other great students who were involved, who had to initially fill out an application to be able to be part of the program and continue it. So they've gone through this process, they've done a great job. So we're certainly proud of these 4 and all the students who are members of the program. So they did a great job tonight. I know there was a lot to talk about, but we're excited about the program heading into its 3rd year, and it's really because of students like these who we feel, as we move forward and people enter the building, that are going to be the leaders and the role models for those students yet to come. So.
Yeah, no, thank you. That was going to be my question, is whether there was a selection process, because I can tell, like, all 4 of you are very articulate, and you're very comfortable speaking publicly, and, you know, I can see the leadership in all of you, so thank you for doing this. I'm sure the younger students really appreciate it. We all know kids would rather talk to you than talk to us. So are you, my other question is, like, are you getting any feedback from the kids? Are they telling you that they like it, or are you having your own personal feedback? Like, are you really glad you did it? What can you say about how it's working so far? I know it's pretty new still.
We haven't seen much feedback yet, but my guess and
Actually, just today during advisory, one of the kids told me, "I'm so happy you're here. This is so much fun." And I was like, "I'm having fun too."
Oh, that's great.
So,
That's
and
great.
We all are building relationships with the 6th graders.
And I feel like since we're doing it in the spring, that the 6th graders do feel more comfortable at the school and with the other students, and so that makes them be more out of themselves with us because we're later on in the year. So I think doing it in the September is really going to help the 6th graders be more comfortable sooner rather than later in the year.
And that they see you in the hallway, they'll recognize you.
Yeah, there's someone in the big kid hallway.
Right. That makes a difference at that age. It really does. Yeah. And, you know, it's all about connection. So thank you for doing that. And it sounds like a great program.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thanks for
Thank
coming.
you.
Bye now.
Thank you.
Hey, Dave.
Okay. Minutes.
Oh, yes.
Lee, did you want to do your update first?
Oh, no, I'm gonna be here
Are
for a
you
while.
good? Okay. All right. Just wanted to give you an early out, just in case.
I'll at least be here till special topics.
Okay, awesome. All right, so let's start with January 22nd. If that's the one at the top of our pile. Yes. Okay, so does anybody have anything on the,
I don't.
Can I start, or?
You can start, yeah, I don't have anything.
Page 11, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Well, it starts with Mrs. Donovan. I think
Yes.
that was Mrs. Tosti who said that.
that's the last paragraph, the last, little paragraph at the top of the page before we get to
Before
number
number
5.
five.
Right above number 5.
Yes.
Okay, so Mrs. Tosti suggested that this would need to be worded. Okay. Anything else?
That's all I have
No,
for that
I didn't
one.
have anything.
Get that changed.
Did you,
I got page 11.
okay, so we're good with those minutes?
Page 13.
13.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, it's all right. Where it says, Mrs. Rennie asked if Mr. Adams has time to meet individually with principals. Mr. Adams responded that he does try to do this every day.
Yeah.
Okay.
Doing every day?
Well, yes.
Been a struggle
Okay.
Yes, of course.
in the last couple of weeks.
Yes,
Oh, of course.
Other than
Tries
that.
to.
We do talk every day, but I don't get to every school every day
that's
that I
understandable.
was.
Okay.
Okay. All
Anything
right.
else?
If we don't have anything else, do we have a motion to accept the January 22nd?
So moved.
2015 minutes?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. January 29th, 2015?
The bottom of page 3.
Yep.
Melissa Duca, that's 1C.
Yep.
Oh,
And that would also be on page 4, the second paragraph, 1C.
Yep.
That's all I had.
Kathy?
I had something funny on 4. So at the bottom, on page 4, on the very last paragraph,
Yeah.
it said, in the middle, this was a great solution to a problem, but those therapists got misplaced. It should say displaced. Like, where are those therapists? Where did you put them?
Where'd they go?
was chuckling over that one,
Yeah.
but that's all I
That
have.
was a good one.
Anything else on there, Jean? I didn't.
I didn't.
Okay.
No.
Do we have a motion to accept the January 29th, 2015 minutes?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, February 10th, 2015. Yeah, there were some spelling issues.
Spelling.
Scenario 1, you know,
Scenario,
my name.
Lori.
L-A-U-R-I-E.
And then on this,
On the
page
sixth.
3, your name's spelled.
Yeah.
And on page 3, if we're doing spelling, Mike Kyra, at top of page 3,
Oh, yeah.
it says Ciara. It's just the I and the A got reversed. But I think that's all I had for that, about the time.
Okay, do we have a motion to accept those minutes, February 10th, 2015?
Yep, so moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
And that's all we had, right?
Yeah.
In that packet? For tonight.
4 others, maybe for the next time.
Okay.
You guys good? We don't have any others. We don't. All right, so we did get to you pretty quickly. Student representative update. What do you got for us?
Not too much. So next Friday is the NHS Talent Show. I know there's going to be a special surprise during it, so everyone should go.
I know what
I'm not going to
surprise
give it away though.
You have to be there to see it.
Yes, and the auditions for that were this Tuesday and Monday. Started the beginning of March. It was a event, I'm sure Mr. Adams is familiar with it, March Madness. It's when it's trying to get students to not be late to school, because it does get to the time of year, and I will admit I have been late a few times in the past months, because it's towards the end of the year and you're getting a little tired. But it kind of is a friendly gesture to kind of just get us back into shape, and it's there's an incentive for the homeroom who has, it's like a battle rounds, and each teacher with the homeroom who has the least amount of lates moves forwards and forward into the next round after every week. And I know that at the very end, whoever wins gets like a pizza party or something for their homeroom. So it's nice, and it keeps everyone coming in early. The choral trip, I don't know if this has been passed here yet. I'm sure she said, oh, it's tonight. Well, hopefully, if things go to plan, we will be going to Six Flags on May 6th. Sorry.
Oh, maybe we don't
That's
have
the- that's the
that.
next
We don't
one.
have that one.
That is the next one. Just
Okay.
kidding. That is our plan. This Saturday is the Polar Plunge. I know that I think I'm supposed to be doing it for Survivor, so I'll see how I feel about it when I get out of the water. The choral concert is coming up on March 31st. I don't know too much about this because thankfully I do not have to take the park testing. I know that's coming up soon. And also AP testing, I know psychology is coming up in May. And that's it from me this week.
Okay. Successful play.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, it
successful
was
play.
fabulous.
It was
It was
fabulous.
really good job. It was great.
Thank you.
Yeah. Superintendent, assistant superintendent, or director of curriculum reports?
Start with Rich if you'd like.
Rich?
I have nothing.
I do have just a couple of items I just wanted to bring to your attention. The tech committee has been meeting a number of times, and we met, I think, the beginning of this week. And we've been talking a lot about one-to-one or bring your own devices. And we're going to have one more meeting and bring everyone's thoughts and ideas together. And then they're looking for either 1 or 2 school committee members to come to a meeting to kind of hear what their thoughts are and get some feedback as to whether it's something, what approach you'd like us to take to bring it to the full school committee. So I'm not looking for a decision right now. I'm just trying to put it out there that probably sometime next month we'll be asking if there's somebody on the school committee who wants to come and join tech committee.
Okay.
Okay. I wanted to update on audit reports. The audits have been completed for FY14. The end-of-year report, which is the school department expenses and revenues and how we report it to the state. There were 3 findings. The first was we had reported a couple of things in columns that we have to make amendments for. The second one was we had asked the town treasurer for any debt payments that were made on the school behalf, and one was overlooked, so we have to add that to the report. And the other one was they found that we have an agreement in place between the school and the town dated from 2004 that's an agreement on how to allocate the expenses that the town has on the school behalf. For instance, plowing our school buildings. The town accountant processes all of our checks. The town treasurer processes all our paychecks and all our employees. So there's a percentage of their cost that on the end of year report I include, because that goes into our net school spending. So they found that in some instances, the agreement had not been followed, which has made us pull it out and put it on the plate to be reviewed and maybe updated before June 30th of this year. So we'll be working with the town manager and assistant town manager and bringing that forward. I also wanted to just say on air that one of the cuts that we're seeing for next fiscal year, FY16, is the full-day kindergarten grant. This year, we originally were told we were getting $68,000. They reduced it this year by about $10,000, but we're now being told that next year it's gone, eliminated. So we weren't quite expecting the whole thing to be gone. So we're going to have to look at our budget and see as we have changes in positions, whether there's any savings there that we can pull out to cover those salaries.
So that's what that funding covered, was salaries?
Yes. It covered the teaching assistants, the ESPs that were in each of the full-day kindergarten classrooms. So 7 ESPs. Okay. And then I just wanted to mention that the Wellness Committee, I'll be looking at the end of the month for volunteers to come together to start working on Wellness Committee. So I'd like to put it out there to parents. I'll be getting things out, asking principals to sending it out to see if there's any parents or students that would like to participate on the committee. But if there's a school committee member that would like to participate, we would be welcome to that too. So that's all I have.
Any questions? So that committee is something that gets, well, I know that when you were working on the policy, there was a committee, but once that work was done, now you need to form a new committee? Is that, it's not the same committee that's going to keep moving forward?
It's not the same committee. I'm not sure. I will reach out to those members to see if they wish to continue.
Okay,
I don't believe all of them will.
Okay.
Which is why I'll still be looking for other people to fill in.
okay,
And by law, we have to meet at least annually to review the policy.
right,
Right.
okay. Any questions or comments? Okay, thank you. Did you want to do gifts and donations now, or should we move to Mr. Adams and then back to you?
You can go right to Mr. Rand.
Okay, gifts and donations.
All right, we have a number of them. Targets take charge of education. This is for the Warren School. It's $310.40. A Donors Choose grant, an LCD projector, iPad mini, and Apple TV for Lauren Alves at Warren. $2,052. It took 4 months and 24 donors, but she finally got it. We have an anonymous donation of a Galaxy Tab 4. It's been given to the SPED department and asked that it go to a student that can use it. The Jump Fit Technology, I'm going to have 2 of these, because there were 2 separate deposits. This was at Mendez School, so one deposit was for $601.85, and the other one was $11,012.38, so they did a lot of jumping. Target at the high school is $95.76. Target at Mendez is $209.01. Target at the middle school is $98.05. And we have one more Donors Choose, 6 Chromebooks, $1,469 for Lori Freeman at Warren. It took 18 donors, 10 weeks.
And what's the target again? Is that when people use their Target card?
Use their Target card
They can
and
allocate-
they indicate which school they want.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
So that brought in some good money.
And the Jump for
Nice.
Technology, what is that the Chromebooks that they're purchasing with that, or this time what that money's earmarked for?
I don't want to say until I check.
Okay.
It just says new classroom technology, so I'm not sure what they'll be purchasing, but I know they're looking at Chromebooks. And Claudia Bennett is trying to be very creative in getting the best bang for her buck.
Sure.
Yeah.
Great.
Thank you. Do we have a motion?
Yep, so moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you.
Thanks, Barbara.
Okay, Mr. Adams, do you have anything?
I do not, we can go right to special topics.
Okay, special
I've got enough
topic.
at the end.
Okay.
Okay, we've got 3 student travel requests. EMS to Washington DC.
Something that I-
That's, assuming that's the annual
Correct.
trip?
Excuse me,
May
Lori.
26th to, I'm sorry.
Lee would
So
like.
I forgot
could he
something,
add
but I thought
something?
you guys would be interested in hearing it.
Of
So
course, we're
I-
interested in anything you have to say.
I've been working with Miss St. Kerr and the senior class advisor, and I know it hasn't been done before, so this is why I thought you guys would be interested, that me, Anna, and Helen will be having the ribbons at graduation for a school committee. It's usually not done,
Oh,
but
awesome.
we thought it'd be a nice thing to start implementing.
Very
Oh,
nice.
That's great. So anyone who
'Cause
has served with us.
Yeah, we've
will get that
talked with
recognition.
student council, and we were saying that, like, we know we're not in the same area as each other, but we're still working, so they
Oh,
acknowledge that, and we're
absolutely,
kind
and it's a
enough
big
to.
commitment.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it's
That's a great
wonderful.
idea.
Excellent.
We support it.
I thought you meant we would have to wear ribbons.
I think we should get a ribbon.
Like a sash.
That's great. I think what's
Thank you,
wonderful
Lee.
too is that with the graduation process, and I
Yeah.
know Ms. St. Kerr still does this, and meets with the seniors, meets with the leadership, and really it's about the seniors, right? It's
Right.
their day,
Right.
and how
Yeah.
every group has actually made modifications to graduation. That's just another wonderful
Yeah.
touch. It's great.
Right, and it's a good touch because it's, you make this
You do.
year-long commitment and
Yeah.
you're sitting here with us all the time and playing an important role.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
You should be recognized for that, so thank you.
And it might not be obvious to the other students, too.
Right.
Because it's at
They don't
night and
know.
it's here, out of school.
Right. So,
Great.
You mean they're not watching us?
Maybe they are.
prime time. Okay, so, do we need any special details about the Washington trip, or do we just need a motion?
The motion is there, it's identical, it's the annual trip.
Okay, so we need a motion to approve the travel request from Ashland Middle School to travel to Washington DC on May 26th through the 29th, 2015.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. We have a second request. This one's from AHS, the Make-A-Wish Club to Florida, November 8th to 11th, 2015. And the motion would be to approve the travel request from Ashland High School Make-A-Wish Club to Kissimmee, Florida on November 8th through 11th, 2015, as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Can I just ask, is this the first time that they've done this, Mr. Adams? that
It
you know
is,
of?
and it's actually the first year of the Make-A-Wish Foundation, Make-A-Wish Club.
In Ashland, okay.
In Ashland.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Okay.
so, in years past, we've done a lot of, remember the Jump for Joy in the cafeteria, in the gymnasium that was put on by NHS, and they donated the money from that. This year, I believe Make-A-Wish actually took that over, the club, and so the funds have been donated to Make-A-Wish, and this is just an opportunity for our kids to experience and do some volunteer work with the Make-A-Wish Foundation to see, what it's like, and it's really a great civic opportunity for our kids.
Like a wonderful opportunity and so many
And
options.
Ms. Shields
just-
is
yeah.
fantastic.
I would like to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great organization.
She invited us, so.
Right, well, Ms. Shields actually, her and her daughter went last year and did this and had the experience, and that's what sort of brought it back.
Yeah. My niece was a recipient of a Make-A-Wish trip. I mean, they really do an amazing
Yeah.
job trying to make kids who,
I think this just creates a better appreciation for where the monies are headed
Right.
and what they're doing.
they're working directly with.
I spoke to Ms. Shields today, and she said it kind of connects the dots for them, so they raise the money, and then they actually get to go and see what their donation is going towards, and be a part of that, so. You kind of see the end. Yeah, she did. She said if you want to,
She invited
she
you?
said if you want to come,
You have to work.
we'd love to. Yeah, you work, it's a volunteer thing, and you pay for your flight and all
No,
that.
it sounds like a wonderful experience.
Yeah.
I hope many kids are taking advantage of that opportunity to serve.
Yeah, it's a good one. Okay,
Yes, we have one more.
AHS Music Department to Boston, March 19th through the 2015. Is that their competition?
This is the annual All-State Music Festival that we
Okay.
traditionally have. Students qualify for this and are selected.
I am not.
Okay, move to
Sorry.
approve the travel request from Ashland High School Music Department to travel overnight to Boston for the Mass All-State Musical Festival on March 19th through the 21st, 2015.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Moving on to our discussion and vote about the school bus transportation contract. Guessing that's you, Ms. Durand?
It is. So when we went out to bid 3 years ago, which is hard to believe.
It really is. It feels
I
like we
know.
were just talking about this.
The contract was written to be a 3-year contract with 2 one-year options at our option. So that is my recommendation, that you vote to do 2 one-year options. And the reason is the increase in the cost for the buses under the contract are tied to the Boston, Brockton, Nashua CPI for transportation. And this year, the increase was 2.07%. If we choose to go out to bid, I'll guarantee you it's going to come in at 3, 4, 5%.
Okay.
So by doing this, we're still tied to the CPI, and inflation rates are still pretty low. Okay.
Did I just miss what your explanation for what CPI index is? What is that?
Consumer Price Index
Consumer Price Index for all.
for
of them.
transportation for the Boston, Brockton, and Nashua area.
Okay.
So they do an index of all the transportation cost
Okay.
and get an inflation factor.
All right, okay.
Yeah, and it was 2.07% that was applied for this year.
And you need a motion to exercise the
Yes.
one-year option versus,
I would recommend you just vote to exercise the 2 one-year
The 2
options
one-year
and just get
options.
it done.
okay.
Yeah.
Do we have a
So,
motion?
okay. And then I just have one question, though. Do we still, so when we lock in, do we still have the flexibility to change schedules and
Yep.
bus routes and stuff like that?
We can
That
change
we're not
bus
looking-
routes, we can
okay.
add buses, we can eliminate buses.
Okay, we have
can-
that flexibility.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Motion?
Yes, so moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye. Thank you.
Okay, moving along, the proposed memorial on school property, you guys will remember when Dan Borelli, the artist, came to talk to us about the potential of, he received a grant award to, he's an artist, to create a structure that, and he chose Ashland, because he's from Ashland, to donate a structure that would commemorate the Nyanza situation. And the town planning board worked closely with him to try to find a spot in town that was appropriate for what he was proposing, and they found a spot on school property. So in the interim, we needed to spend some time looking into, you know, whether or not that was feasible for us, and then what steps we would need to take should we agree to do this. So we were all very enthusiastic about his presentation and thought it was a great idea. Since then, I'll just add this now just so I don't forget, but there are 2 pieces to this. There's also a second opportunity to get some grant money to devise a curriculum piece to go along with this. I know we talked about having some education go along with it, so people who came to see the structure would have some understanding about, and so now there's a potential to get some money to help develop a curriculum to go along with the project. So that's part 2. But part A, the things that we need to consider are, you know, it would go through our donating a memorial policy. We would go through that policy, and if we were to accept the structure, we would take it as a gift, you know, it would come through our gifts and donations. And that what everybody needs to understand then is it then becomes school property. And we are responsible for maintaining it, we're responsible, by the same token, we also have the right to move it if we need to move it, or to, you know, if we decide to have some other use for the property, it now becomes school property. I mean, obviously, the intent of the donation is to have it be there for a while, but once we accept it as a gift, it does become both our responsibility as well as we own it and we can do what we need to do. So those are the kinds of things that the committee needs to consider. If we are going to approve this project, then we would go, if you remember in the policy, there are a bunch of steps. One, we can have a subcommittee and so forth. If we find that that's not necessary because he came and he made the presentation, we could go directly to step 9, which is agreeing to accept the project. And then when it's completed, it will come through as a gift or a donation, and we'll do it that way. And then the curriculum piece is a little bit separate. They're just looking for something from the schools to say that we support that for his grant project to make his grant application a little stronger.
So, well, I was wondering, though, well, a few things. Do we want to do a subcommittee that would, and then that subcommittee would work with him? Is that what it would do? I mean,
I mean, I don't really think
Oh,
it's
so, no.
necessary,
Well-
because he's gone through the planning board. You know, he's been
Okay.
spending a lot of
But
time,
is
and
it
there's a timing issue.
structure,
I was
or
gonna
is
say,
it
I thought there was a
a,
timing
yeah.
issue in
there
regards
is-
to
is
this.
it a
sculpture.
structure he wants to put
I
in,
think
or?
it's a garden.
I thought it was like, yeah,
Sculpture.
a space, like a garden kind of.
Yeah,
But there'll be a piece of art. He got.
And then there would be a piece of art.
Right. There will be a piece of art that he is working on, and there's a deadline for the grant. In order to receive the grant, the whole thing has to be completed by a certain date.
Oh, yeah.
So, and he's already been through, I mean, if it were kind of coming out of the blue, my preference might be to go have a subcommittee and everything, but it's kind of been through the whole process already. He's been to front of the
So
planning board.
so who would he work with, like, on the school side? I mean, would he be working with somebody in the superintendent's office then?
I think when he was ready with his project, he would come back and present to
Yeah.
us. And then at that point, you would probably work with the grounds, right? People to,
maintenance and
maintenance to,
Eric.
Okay, so so we're looking to, what, accept?
well, we're looking to use our policy, our memorial policy, to go straight, if we all agree, to go
Yeah.
straight to the part of the policy where we can.
Step 9.
Step 9, where we can accept this project under the policy, and so that he can begin the work and then come back to us several months from now when it's done, and we can talk about the gift part.
Okay. No, I like the whole idea, but do we, like, what if, are we gonna see it as he's moving along and we don't like it, or do we have
What
some
about this-
input, or?
The statue, or, I'm sorry, how did you phrase it?
I think it's a sculpture.
A sculpture.
Yeah.
Do we get approval on the sculpture?
Well, we have to accept the gift.
You can't,
And
you don't
again-
have to accept the gift and
Right.
donation if you don't want to.
Well, I don't want him to do the work and then.
Well,
have a-
again, I
wanna-
think his
yeah.
intention was
Yeah,
to
yeah.
come back and continue to update us as he's going
Yeah,
through the process.
right, and he'll
There's
keep
a
us
garden.
surprised,
Yeah.
I
yeah,
mean, that's the part of it that we talked about in that section
Yep.
of the field,
right,
in the woods. There'll be a garden there for
Yeah.
meditation and to go
Yeah.
back and review.
yeah,
So, and that's, I mean, that's really the tricky part, is
right.
that we will then become responsible for upkeep, right? And that's, as Chair Tosti said, that's
Right.
something we have to consider.
Right.
And but that's something we could also involve the students in as
Sure, we
well.
could. Absolutely, it's a great opportunity.
Right.
And the upkeep probably wouldn't be too expensive, right? I
Sounds like
mean,
it was going to be natural.
it's a
Yes.
natural setting and, okay. Just- Okay.
Do you guys have any reservations or anything that you want to share with us?
I don't.
No?
I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you see any, yeah, like
Concerns about the land?
financial
No.
part, Barbara, or anything?
I don't
or-
think it's going to be
It
significant.
wouldn't be significant.
An
Right.
opportunity for community
And
service
then
with our
the,
kids.
right, and then the
Yeah.
curriculum part would be kind of that civics.
Still
thing that
needs
we're
to be
trying-
developed,
right,
but it's got that
But it
potential.
has that potential
Yeah.
and,
And that's not going to cost the schools anything.
No.
So
Yeah.
he's got an opportunity to match some funds with his grant. He just needs a letter from the school district
Yeah.
saying, we support the project.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
For me, it almost feels like one of those Eagle Scout projects,
Right,
like we
it
have
is,
this
yeah.
opportunity,
Yeah.
somebody's like, chosen us to donate
Yeah.
something great. But just understanding though, you're right, there is the maintenance piece, but I guess if at some point the balance ever became a problem,
And
we
school
own it.
committee
and
has
it's-
that right to
Right.
do something.
Right, and as long as
School
that's
committee
okay with
could do
everybody, I
something.
mean, the artist needs to understand that as well, once it's donated, it's,
Yeah,
belongs
and-
to the
Belongs
school.
to the school.
And he knows that,
He
right?
does.
Yes.
He knows that, he's aware of that.
So if you want to look at, within your packet, if you want to look
Yeah,
at
the
step
policy's
9,
there.
just
Yeah, I was,
to reread step 9.
yeah,
I mean, there are two pieces of this that I think you have to look at. One is, it says the recommendation, independent recommendation shall be made no less than 2 regularly scheduled school committee meetings prior to the final vote. Or you all can choose to waive
is this our second
the
one?
policy.
Well, we
itself.
had one
We had
already.
one, we
Had
listened to
one,
it,
and
right.
this would be our
So I
second
think
one.
this could be the second, and so we could give him the opportunity to get moving
Move
on
forward
it.
with
I don't want to jeopardize.
Okay.
If we're gonna do it and we're sure about it, then we should move forward so he can, if there
Yeah.
are any reservations, then
Yeah, and
obviously
then
we
he'll
can
give us
take
some
our time.
updates as he's moving along.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I think he would want to anyway, right? Okay.
And I like the fact that it's been vetted through
Yeah,
town planner.
That's right.
It's been through a number of
yeah,
boards and committees already.
yeah,
I like
well,
that.
the town planner, Nat Strasberg,
Right,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
He's all done with that part, going through the town and talk to everybody? Okay.
By assumption, nobody else is looking at that piece of land to do something with,
Uh,
so.
Well, it's school property, right?
Right.
And so, okay. All right, great.
So do we have a motion?
I'm sorry, actually, one more
Is-
question. I
yeah.
guess the new development that's proposed, I don't know enough about it, but I think that's in a different area of that road, so it wouldn't be impacted.
I
Okay.
believe you're right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, when we looked at the map and they showed it, I see no concerns in terms of where it's being located.
So what is the
You need
motion
two
then?
motions. Your
Two
first motion
motions.
should be to waive number 9 of the policy and to allow the school committee to take its vote at tonight's meeting.
Okay.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
And now you can vote on the project.
So now we're voting to accept
project.
the project from Dan Burley. Okay, so moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. I'll let them know. Okay, next, discussion and vote kindergarten tuition rates, 2015, 2016. That's you again.
It is. So when Mr. Kyra and I talked about this initially, he has had the full-day kindergarten lottery. He's ready to send out the letters and start collecting the deposits. We do have people on a wait list, so we want to get that process started. And at the time, we were anticipating that we would be getting some kind of funding from the kindergarten grant. And under the terms of the kindergarten grant, the most that you can charge for tuition is $4,000. We were currently at $3,900. Given that we were anticipating some kind of a reduction to the grant, we put this in saying we recommend going from $3,900 to $4,000. That's still our recommendation, even though we're not under the constraints of the grant. You could go as high as you want right now, but I really don't recommend going any higher than a $100 increase on the tuition to these families. But I think we need to increase it to $4,000 to cover some of that cost. It would be $12,000, an increase of $12,000.
Okay.
So that's our recommendation, is to have school committee vote to set the full-day kindergarten tuition at $4,000 for next year.
Makes sense to me. Does anybody have any comments or questions about that?
But what about, so the grant that you brought up before, so we're just going to have to find that money or find a way to
Well, okay,
fund that?
this would be
or this is totally
12,000,
separate?
and when we get to the
Right.
budget, I'm gonna explain a little bit more.
Okay,
We're
All
not
right.
quite there, but we're
Okay.
getting there.
all right, but you're thinking, okay. I will move that we raise the rate by $100 for the kindergarten
Okay.
2015-2016 school year.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
So I'm going to ask Chair if, please, let's move number 6 up to number 5. It's
Sure thing, since we're talking about it anyway.
talking about budget and
do it.
finances. Let's
Okay.
go from there.
Yep.
All right, so we left an update at each of your seats tonight.
Wait a minute, where is it?
Okay.
Oh, there it is, I got it. Great, thank you.
Is this the same number that was agreed upon at the tri-board?
No, it's not,
Okay.
but I can explain why.
Please do.
We've had some changes since tri-board.
Okay.
So this number is actually $24,325 less than you voted. But there's a reason for it, and it's okay. All right? So what happened is, when we talked about the budget of tri-boards, we said that there would be $106,000 coming in through the 2 solar projects.
Right,
And we were using that as revenue.
right.
So we met with the solar company this week, and it doesn't come in as revenue, it comes in as a credit on your utility bill.
Okay,
So it reduces your utility cost.
okay.
So in the budget, I have reduced our utility cost $54,600, because they are projecting a half year's worth of savings. Because if they get approved at town meeting for both projects, what they have said to us is they will have everything up on the school roof before the start of school, but by the time they get everything connected, it would be around the first of the year. And the flip doesn't switch on savings until they
Right.
have everything connected.
Exactly.
So we reduced our utilities by $54,600
Okay,
in the budget.
okay.
But then, in discussion with the Assistant Town Manager, Mike Herbert, the assessment for Keefe Tech came in this week, much lower than what they had estimated. So there's not as much money going out to Keefe Tech.
Yay.
And our 70% of that reduced assessment is $81,675. So that offset the $54,600 that I decreased the utility and left us with $30,275, which we are making the recommendation that goes towards the salaries for the full-day kindergarten.
Help offset
To help
some of the
offset.
the
Right.
grant, yeah.
Okay,
All right.
there's your answer.
So your new bottom line budget, and this was voted by the Board of Selectmen last night, is $26,445,264.
Okay.
Does anybody have any questions about that?
No, I know.
Make sense to everybody?
Robert's got it all under control.
It is under control.
Yeah.
It is under control. It's good.
Okay.
Okay, so
Oh, and the crossing guards have been put back into the police budget
how did they do that?
Again, the
with
Keefe
their
Tech.
savings from the Keefe Tech.
Oh, okay.
So again, that's the whole discussion when we're dealing with the budget numbers. They're constantly moving, even at
Right.
this point in time, right? So we did not have the Keefe Tech assessment
Right.
last week, so they were using a static number.
How about the SRO at the high school?
Not at this point.
Not at this point, that's still was that a reduction or a cut? Is he,
No, he will be going back to serving on
so
patrol.
he won't be at the high school
Correct.
at all?
Not necessarily. Even when we didn't have
Yeah.
the SRO, we have such a great relationship with our police force that
They're there when you
they're
need
there all the time. They're still stopping in,
Oh,
having
okay.
conversations. It's
Yeah.
just not a designated
Right,
person.
I got it, okay. So
So-
it's kind of back to that.
Correct.
It will be back to that, okay, thank you. That
Were
made
we
it clear.
paying a portion of his salaries, but it was just an assignment?
Correct.
Okay.
Okay.
The school crossing guards, do you mind giving a bit of history on that? Because, meaning, it went into the police budget, it was in our budget?
No, it's never been
No,
in our budget.
no.
Never,
Crossing guards have always been paid out of the police budget because
Okay.
they're hired by the police department. They go through training with the police department before they go out on the streets. So when the town had to make cuts this year, they
Okay.
cut it out of the police budget, and we were told we would have to pick up that cost.
I see.
But now, with the changes in the revenues and assessments, they have put that money back into the police
Okay.
budget.
Okay,
So we will have
Great.
crossing guards.
okay.
Okay.
So we are voting just a new number,
The new bottom
Okay.
line number, correct.
revised. All right. So I move to vote to approve a FY16 school budget of, oh my gosh,
Yes.
$26,445,264.
I will second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Barbara.
Okay, superintendent's entry plan.
Yes, I need to
Report,
switch the
findings.
television here. I'd like to come back to the seats, I don't have to do this, I may have to do it from here.
Oh.
Let me grab my glasses.
There's a clicker over here, too.
Yeah, that's mine.
Oh.
Paul had left this, so,
Okay.
but that's fine, I can do this just simply from up here. Flexible, that's what educators are. So, if you remember back in September, as part of the new superintendent's induction program, we go through a process of doing an entry report. And this is a synopsis of the findings from that entry process that I undertook, having discussions with a variety of individuals in town, looking at the data that exists through the Department of Education, looking at, bless you, looking at classroom data, looking at a variety of sources, right, that come into this. And this is just that presentation. It's part of the program. And in putting this together, thinking about how fortunate I am to be here as the superintendent and thankful that I've had this opportunity, and to look at our community as a whole, and look at our educational community specifically, and sharing with you the beliefs that I have, that that my core beliefs and my values as we move forward and using the findings. And that, I'll talk about that towards the end. But, you know, thinking about our role and your role and my role is about student achievement and making sure that we're putting students at the center of all of our decision making. No better, you know, example is our tough budget process this year, making sure that the decisions we were making are about students. I believe that acting with the highest level of integrity at all times, being visible and being approachable to our community, to our kids, to our teaching staff, to the town members. I believe that building positive, lasting, and trusting relationships is really the key to our success and will be the key to our success long term. Core belief and value I have is that I'm going to outwork everyone. And, you know, hopefully you'll see that as we progress through my tenure here. Transparency at all levels. I believe that communication is the key. So the families in this community know that I over-communicate probably. And I've had a lot of parents, especially through this budget process, we love the fact that you're communicating, but sometimes you can just stop. You know, we got it. Be active and involved. Listen to the concerns and provide genuine and sincere solutions, and to collaborate. Those are my beliefs, my values, and that's what I hope to continue to bring to the table here in Ashland. So it's hard to read at home, but this comes directly from the new superintendent's induction program, and Dr. DiTullio Rose had talked a little bit about where we are in our process. And although I started in August, many of the superintendents had started this process end of June, beginning of July. I didn't start until September. And when we're looking, it's not coming out very well, but if you're looking at the overall scheme, the superintendent's entry plan, I presented that to you. I said, this is what I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to discover more about our community. So that looks, they call it the collect, the count, see, and the hear the data. So actually go to the DSE website, count, look at things. What am I seeing? What am I hearing in having discussions? A lot of it's perception. And some stuff that we'll talk about tonight just leads us to ask more questions. That's part of the purpose. So the report of entry findings. This is where we are today. You can't tell, but it should be right in the February range. We're a little bit behind that. I apologize. And then eventually, after we go through this process in my program, we'll be looking at the findings, and we'll start the process of understanding why certain things are happening within the district. And as we go through this, we'll eventually get to the strategy. What will our district strategy be? That'll be part of our goal as a committee and admin team over the summer, is to create a new strategy, new goals. Now, we've reviewed our old strategic plan, but it needs to be updated. It needs to be more reflective of who we are today. And then this is what it's about. It's not about solving problems. It's about presenting to you key highlights through my discussion, my listening, the count, see, hear data. But it is important, and I stress it, to remember that the report is not intended to solve any problems. It's about, this is what I heard, this is what I saw. And it's really important. And I shared this, I think it is important to understand that I shared this with the administrative team on Tuesday to get their feedback. Because some of it is targeted, some at schools, at individuals, and it's not intended to be it's not intended to point fingers. It's just to highlight things that I've heard or that I've seen. So this is,
Mr. Anderson, can you tilt your mic up a little bit?
and I can tilt it up.
I didn't count for some of your heights.
Well, it's okay. I think it's not Mr. Lynn. You still got 2 inches on me. So it's about what are we going to do this summer, really, right? Setting a path for the future of the Ashland Public Schools. So in my entry plan discussion back in September, I talked about the phases. What am I going to do? And how am I going to do it? Obviously, phase 1 was listening and having conversations. There were 3 main questions that I asked, and what is it that you most value about the Ashland Public Schools? And I asked this of a variety of people and individuals that I had spoken with. What would you like to see improved or needs immediate attention? And what is it I can do as superintendent in my first year to make our school system better? Then I took phase 2, which is a document and data review. So some items reviewed, and this is not all inclusive. Again, this is a summary. It's a long summary, so bear with me. But looking at the strategic plan, looking at the town annual report, budget documents, DESE accountability reports, MCAS data, school committee policy manual, school and district improvement plans are some of the things that I looked at. Then observations was phase 3. Meeting and listening to the concerns of faculty, staff, and the community. So attending faculty meetings. I still hold monthly meetings. My last one was at Mendez on Monday, having that discussion about our budget process, and because they're really concerned and they want to be in the know. Attend parent open houses and attend community events. For example, going to the Lions Club dinner, or and having conversations with that community group. And then phase 4, analysis of findings. So review of all the collected data, presentation to the administrative team, which I've done, and then tonight is the presentation to the school committee. And eventually the last phase will be the development of goals from this information. So design a plan to address concerns, such as a summer workshop with the school committee, to develop new strategic plan, and then creation of your school committee goals. As you know, the school committee goals are so critical to us because they should be leading to school goals, school improvement plans, eventually leading to the educator evaluation and goals of not only the principals, but goals of teachers should be tied back to it. My goals should be tied back to the school committee goals. So we just have to get in that mindset to do this. So, after looking at everything, what are the themes that were derived from my findings? Theme 1 was about governance and leadership, with some sub-themes such as the school committee and district and school-based leadership. Theme 2 was about teaching and learning, so it had 3 subtopics of curriculum instruction and assessment, special education, and standardized assessments. Theme 3, culture and climate, school and town relations, administrative turnover, and connections with the community. And theme 4, finance and operations, budget development and transparency through that process. So again, I want to highlight, these are just snapshots of all of the information that I looked at, that I listened to. Again, a lot of it's perception, and how do we overcome perception? And so I broke this up into, and great feedback again from the administrative team, discovery. What is it what I discovered by looking and hearing and seeing all this information? And what are the opportunities that exist because of that discovery? And so, for instance, the school committee. Obviously, some of us in the community know they're made up of typically 5 members on the board. And so looking at the structure that currently exists. We know in talking to individuals that the committee is dedicated to providing the resources necessary for the Ashland Public Schools. No greater example than the past 5.5, 6 weeks about the budget discussion and all the budget workshops that you engaged in, doing that type of work. Obviously, committee actively relies on Mike Gilbert of the MASC, as well as our attorneys, to offer counsel and guidance. We have professional organizations that provide us with opportunities, and we should rely upon them and have conversation. And then part of the discovery, perception exists that the committee has not always been united with a singular purpose. And just a quick example is the high superintendent turnover. That was sort of what was discussed by individuals and the community at large when I was going through this process. So what are our opportunities because of this? 1, developing a new strategic plan for the district. 2, continue professional development of the committee members to create that team approach so we're unified as an entire committee. And create stability in the superintendent's role. Hopefully we're doing that.
That's up to you.
Well, I think it's up to everybody.
Well, I'm just kidding.
But that theme will come out often
Yes.
in this, in
Yes.
a multitude of areas, in the 4 different themes, it'll come out in almost every one of those.
Yes, of course.
So district and school-based leadership. Discovery, well, since 2009,
Yeah.
there have been 5 superintendents.
Yeah.
Ashland Middle School has seen instability in its leadership. Now, there was a 2-year period where they had 4 principals in a 2-year period at the middle school. Tremendous instability. I believe we have stability now. Mr. DiGirolamo has been there for 2.5 years. And that has actually, in talking to families, that has created a sense of stability here. But it didn't exist. So this is a historical context as well. The Assistant Superintendent of Finance and Operations is well respected for her knowledge and ability. There's concern that Mendez is not making appropriate growth, and this will fall under that C, teaching and learning category. Mr. Lind and I, Mr. Lind presented the MCAS data a number of months back, and when we're walking through it, we're not seeing that same type of growth that we're seeing at the middle school or at the high school. That our expectation of closing achievement gaps at Mendez has to be something we look at much more closely when we're developing our strategic goals. There was a perception, and I stress perception, that there was micromanaging of staff and building leadership appears to be present from certain directors at times. So what opportunities exist because of this discovery? Well, we need to consistently apply the use of DESE's educator evaluation for administrators. We need to increase communication to staff in the community from building leadership. Create stability in the superintendent's role, again. Offer targeted professional development for administrators. And actively engage building-based staff in leadership and decision-making processes. Very clear from staff in the survey. They want to be more engaged with opportunities for leadership in their buildings. And the prime example I can just tell you is at the middle school. Again, when you go through 4 principals in 2 years, staff doesn't know up from down, in from out. And having them have a voice is critical. So they can help create some sustainability there. So theme 2, teaching and learning, curriculum, instruction, and assessment. Very clear from every piece of information, data that I looked at, data points, that Ashland Public Schools has dedicated and caring teachers. Ashland High School is consistently ranked as one of the higher achieving schools in the state. Last year, achieving the U.S. News and World Gold Medal School for the first time. The neighborhood program at Mendez is a sought-after program by families. Vertical discussions between schools is increasing. That relates directly to the curriculum. Community desires more conference time at the elementary level. And we've addressed some of these. So again, you have to remember, this is information that I collected all the way through really December and January, and I'm now just presenting for a variety of reasons. The district is a level 2 district due to underperformance at AMS and Mendez on statewide assessments. So in other words, those achievement gaps are not being closed. And there's a slide I'll show you in a little bit on that. Much concern exists for the mental, social, and emotional health of our students. Curriculum mapping is a slow process, but progress is being made. An increased collaborative effort between the public schools and the community resources. And just one example of that is the Ashland Public Library. In my conversation with the public librarian in town is they want to be more involved in our schools. And when we're running projects at various levels, keeping the Ashland Public Library informed as to what projects we're working on so they can have materials set aside. So our kids can then access that information. And Mr. Lynn's done some work with that, and the Friends of the Ashland Public Library. So there's conversations still occurring with regard to this. Opportunities. Offer educators more school and content-specific professional development. Offer educators a more consistent approach to curriculum. Introduce a professional development team to provide targeted and relevant professional development opportunities. Create a plan for the integration of technology in classrooms. You heard Ms. Duran talk about tonight that the technology committee is looking into these things and looking at where do we go next in this district with technology, a one-to-one, a bring your own device, all of those types of conversations. And the development of a plan to close the achievement gap. So what does that look like in special education and ELL now, in terms of the teaching and learning? And the reason it's broken out is, again, I think when you're looking at curriculum instruction assessment and special education and ELL, our population is changing, right? And we've talked a lot about this throughout the budget process, that we need to be consistently aware of what is happening within our own community. Very clear, Ms. Silva is readily accessible to parents and responds to their needs all the time. There's a perception that at times the team process is managed using a top-down model. There's definitely increased communication. That's noted by families. We notice out-of-district costs are continuing to rise. We also notice the English language learner population is steadily rising. There's much concern exists with regard to the continued rise in special education costs. And the preschool programming needs are not being fully met. Again, we have to step back, right? There's this historical context. These are things that we've had discussions about here in past meetings, but it really should be part of the entry report findings. Yes?
Could you go back to your second point regarding
Sure.
the perception that at times the
Yeah.
team process
Yeah.
is
So-
managed using a top-down model?
Top-down. So sometimes it can be principals, it can be directors, it can be myself included, saying, here is what an expectation of an outcome, as opposed to allowing that outcome to occur organically within a team meeting process. Sometimes I know as a principal, I would interfere with a process sometimes, inappropriately. And because I thought something was the best thing to do.
Okay.
And instead, we have a process in place for a reason. And to allow that to occur. Doesn't mean you can't have input, but, you know, sometimes we do. And I'm as guilty as the next person of intervening when I needed to be stepping away. So, opportunities. Conduct an analysis to gain a more thorough understanding for the continued increase in special education costs. We need to really figure this out. We have to really look at this closely. And it's not just our community, it's every community around us. Investigate school-based and district-based approach to team meetings. In other words, we want consistency. We have 3 team chairs, right? We have the high school, and she works with the out-of-district as well as the middle school, and then we have an elementary team chair. So when we're running IEP meetings, or guidance running 504 meetings, that there's a consistent approach, so when families go from one building to the next, they know what to expect with the process. Does that make sense? Heard loud and clear from families that had students who went from all the way through,
Right.
saying, this person did it this way, and this person did it this way. It just wasn't consistent. We didn't know what to expect when we went into the meeting. So we just have to analyze it, investigate, can we make it? And I'll tell you this, I talked to Ms. Silva today, and she's already working with her team chairs and having them do peer observations with one another to really investigate, how are you running your meeting? Even though there's a guideline that we're supposed to follow, at least they're having that opportunity to work with one another. So analyze the viability of creating internal programs to mitigate special education costs. Obviously, you know what we're doing with our budget, trying to create a program to help mitigate further costs. So standardized assessment. This is the crux of why we're here in one essence, right? Is to look at how our students are achieving with regard to standardized assessment, MCAS, SATs, AP scores, all of those factors. It's critical, but I want to step back and always remind everyone that that's not the only thing we should be looking at in developing our children. But that's how we're rated by the state. And that's why we're a level 2 district, because when one school is a level 2, your district is rated a level 2. I did the research, and I think there are about 20 non-vocational charter schools in the state that are actually level 1 districts. So meaning from pre-K through 12, or K through 12 schools. The ones who are all level ones typically might be a 6 through 12 school, or a vocational school, where they only have 9 through 12 or 8 through 12. It's very rare. Within our league, I always try to give the example of the Tri-Valley, and we think we have some, we have some wonderful school districts: Westwood, Medfield, Ashland, Medway, Holliston, you name them, right? There's one, only one, that's a level 1 community, and that's Dover-Sherborne. Well, Dover is a level 1, and Sherborne's a level 1. They're 2 different districts, but Dover-Sherborne is a high school, is a level 1. But so one could just conclude that the whole district is a level 1, even though they're really 3 separate entities. But Medfield, Westwood, Hopkinton, they're all level 2s. And it's all because of certain subgroups and achievement gaps. So I'm not saying level 2 is bad. I'm just saying we should be striving for level 1. Achievement gaps are closing at the middle school. I had a conversation just tonight with Mr. Lynn that we're noticing significant gains in terms of that growth at the middle school. Achievement gaps at Mendez are of concern. SAT scores at Ashland High School have not seen the same amount of gain compared to growth on MCAS. So, for example, we should be seeing this rise, even though our MCAS scores are top. Our SAT scores, especially in English, are not rising to the same level as the SAT scores of math on a year-to-year basis. So I know, Ms. Bronstein has been meeting with the College Board, trying to determine, the sections of the SATs that we're not performing well on. And again, we don't necessarily want to teach to an exam, but it does there are indicators as to how well our students will perform when they leave Ashland High School. So just looking at that. This year, obviously, the Ashland Public Schools grades 3 through 8 are engaged in Park, and then freshmen and juniors in English. Educators do not always own their own data. It's a kinder, gentler way of saying sometimes we fall into the blame game. We criticize the group below us, saying, well, they weren't prepared. And it just keeps going and keeps going and keeps going right down to, the womb. There's inconsistency of assessments.
Say that.
An analysis at the elementary schools has led to instructional deficiencies. What I mean by that is when we're going from, say, Warren to Mendez, the way the teachers are interpreting data is different from one school to the next, and the services we might be providing are different based on that data. There's a belief that Mendez traditional students do not perform on standardized assessments as well as neighborhood students. So where are our opportunities? Provide more opportunities for vertical team discussions to reduce that blame of the group below or above you. Stick with curriculum programs and provide appropriate professional development for a significant length of time. That is a direct conversation about math programs. Making sure that we stick with a math program 5 years down the road, then analyze it and see if it was beneficial to us. Modify English curriculum at AHS in order to improve growth on SATs. Analyze the traditional and neighborhood programs for their effectiveness. So really digging deeply into that data. I didn't do that. I mean, I looked at it, I can give you some examples of it, but we need to go much further into it. It's hard to read at home, but again, level 2, this is Mendez, and what you'll notice is our target is 75 for the growth and of populations, low income, all students, ELL, so the subgroups that exist. And I always want to caution people when they go directly to the high school and say, well, look, go look at the high school data. Mr. Lynn, how many subgroups do we have there?
It's about half as many as
half, right? Exactly. So we don't have the same amount of, they're reaching their growth potential, but what you see here is there are subgroups that we clearly are identifying that we need to really focus on in terms of our instruction. You want to explain anything more on this slide?
I would just say, to expand that, it's because, this is an accountability of MCAS data. And at the high school, we were only testing 10th graders and some ninth and.
Correct. Just in science, but
in
that's not even
science.
that.
But, so when you look at special education population of grade 3, 4, and 5, we have more than 40 students, I believe, or 30, I forget the number. But you have to have a minimum number for it to count.
Create a subgroup.
Okay.
So when you look at just the 10th grade, we have less than that number, so they don't
They don't
actually
Count
figure it.
for, as far as this goes.
Right.
Yeah.
So you
Okay.
need a minimum number of students for it to,
Show
for
up
the
on
data
a
to show up.
survey
So the
report.
middle school and Mendez have those
So if you have
minimum
3
numbers, which are
grades
combining
testing.
Oh,
all
good. Thank
3
you for
grades.
explaining that.
So you
Yeah.
have 3 grades testing, you have 10 in each
Right.
group, right?
Makes sense.
You got 30 kids, now you need that subgroup.
Yep.
The high school has enough 9 through 12, but only 10 tests.
Gotcha.
So they don't
So-
actually include that.
And that'll be interesting, because if the Department of Education chooses to accept Park as the next form of assessment, 9, 10, and 11 will all be tested. So I think we'll have a different structure to look at in terms of accountability. Does that make sense? Because right now, only the sophomores have that testing, but Park will test 9, 10, and 11 in specific subject areas. So then we go to the middle school, and you can look at the middle school growth. They're, with the exception of, we're looking at students with disabilities and our Hispanic and Latino population, they're very close to meeting their goals in all subgroup areas, and to being a level 1 school. Very close. I think that's important. Distinction, that they are moving forward. They're doing some good work here. So theme 3 was culture and climate. To me, I think this is the most important. That's just who I am. I believe that the culture and climate of the schools and of the district can propel us to really great things. Much of the staff indicates there's a divide from building to building and from department to department. Inconsistent approach to educator evaluation by principals and directors over, again, this is historically speaking. High turnover in administration leads to distrust. Ashland Middle School, central office are examples. Perception of a lack of appreciation for teaching staff by principals and the community. The profession is getting harder and harder, especially with more testing and mandates. Teachers indicate this is taking away their time with kids in actually teaching. Faculty does not feel engaged in the decision-making process. I mentioned this earlier when it dealt with the building leadership. There are no common goals or values for the district. So what do we all believe in? And how does that filter through to all the schools and our staff and our community and our kids? And not all schools are treated the same with regard to appreciation. What are our opportunities? Create meaningful district and school-based goals and values. That's our task, right? That's our charge this summer. Encourage principals to utilize staff and leadership roles in problem solving. Promote team and unity building for all of us. And create opportunities for staff to work with one another and collaborate more. They're craving this. They really are. So theme 4, finance, operations, and town relations. A lot of discovery on this one. And again, this was just the highlights, right? So there is a consensus. Assistant Superintendent of Finance and Operations is a valuable asset to the schools and the community. Administrators do have an active role in the budgeting process. School committee advocates for budgetary needs that it will increase achievement for all students. The town of Ashland contributes more than 20% above the required net school spending. Support for education has been demonstrated year after year through stabilization usage. Chapter 70 and circuit breaker funding need revision. Ashland ranks in the bottom 1/3 in the state for per pupil spending. Most of this data comes directly from DESE and Department of Revenue. Members of the community want more transparency with the spending of tax dollars. There's a perceived disconnect between Finance Committee, School Committee, and Board of Selectmen due to a lack of prior year communication and stated priorities. Special education and ELL mandates are requiring more of our financial support. Numerous conversations with citizens and employees indicate a belief that Ashland is revenue poor and that overrides have not passed historically in this community. So it gives us some great opportunities, right? The budget development should consist of a thorough analysis of line item by line item each and every year. And I would say, and Mr. Rand and I have had this conversation, throughout the year, to consistently understand why you're spending what you're spending. Create a 3 to 4 year budget plan to better understand the long-term impacts of contracts, limited revenue, and unfunded mandates. So as we move this district forward, where do we want to be in 5 years? What is it going to look like financially? And what is it going to look like educationally? Estimate the impact of new housing to forecast future space needs. That has to be in collaboration with the planning board and town management. If they're approving housing, we have to understand how that's going to impact us and then account for that within our structure. The district and town relationships, the last piece of theme 4. Discovery. There's been a breakdown in communication and relationship between the school department and general government due to high turnover in superintendents. Again, 5 since 2009. There's been no consistency from the superintendent role. What they appreciate is the consistency that Ms. Duran has brought. They don't appreciate the superintendent's inconsistency, however. So, nor do I blame people who have made those comments. Discussions with members from school committee, finance committee, and board of selectmen indicate strained relationships and distrust. Historical context and inconsistency, again at the superintendent's level, has increased the divisiveness between boards and has led to a lack of trust. A number of collaborative efforts have begun, however, to take place, such as creating joint policies for capital improvement, debt management, and revenue policy, and sharing of costs of a director of public facilities. Great opportunities exist. Be able to identify norms and expectations, and they must be developed for the boards in order to create a more cohesive and functioning environment. Promote collaboration between the town manager and superintendent to better understand each of our roles while respecting and advocating for their specific boards. I think that's critical. Understanding what Mr. Schiavi does and what his role is and what my role is, but also understanding we can respect one another and advocate for our beliefs and do it in a respectful way. Analyze the possibility of further joint ventures. And disseminate budget materials and relevant financial data in a timely and transparent way. I believe we're well on our way to doing that last piece. So, in conclusion, right? So pulling this report of entries findings together, I'd like to thank the superintendents listed below, and there are many more. But the process of looking at a district was enlightening for me, even though I've been in the district coming up on my 6th year. I knew a lot, I'd heard a lot, but this gave me an opportunity to really dig a little more deeply into some of those conversations. But as talking to Dr. DiTullio when preparing this, we have to recognize as part of the new superintendent's induction program is that we rely on each other to develop this report. So the superintendents who are here that I acknowledge are those that I reached out to and said, hey, can I borrow some of this information? How did you go about determining what themes you were going to present? And we just had that collaborative discussion. So when I had my last meeting back in February, we brought these plans together all of us brought ours together and said, let's walk through them. What do you think about my themes? How can they be modified? So there's a narrative report that goes with this, which I haven't presented to you, and which I'll share at some point as well. But these are the highlights of the narrative report. So I'd like to thank these individuals, and definitely Dr. DiTullio. Her guidance has been immense. In the last slide, just talks about who are some of the people I spoke with, what some of the data I looked at, what types of events did I attend. And again, this is definitely not all-inclusive, but I just wanted to give sort of a synopsis of some of the people, places where I've been in the first 7 months of my superintendency. 7 months? I don't know.
7 years?
It feels longer than 7 months. But it's truly, that's what it's been, is 7 months. And this is where we stand today. So thank you. Certainly willing to come back to the seat and answer some questions if you have them.
Okay, I'll open it up to my colleagues here first.
So thorough.
I know.
Very thorough. I don't really have any questions. I guess there was just a couple of points I wanted to sort of speak to, which is first of all, I appreciate the relationships that you are creating and working towards better relationships within the town, other boards and committees, and our town and assistant town manager. I appreciate that there are some concerns and issues in here that could be touchy, and you're dealing with them head on, especially, turnover has always been, I think, a big concern, and even Warren. I mean, there's been a lot of turnover prior to Mr. Kyra at Warren, and that's hard to deal with when you have little ones in that school, and if you have multiple little ones, and going through that school at a period of time and having principal after principal. And I certainly have seen a culture change at the middle school in the past couple of years, which is I think has been a very good thing. Obviously, but it's always good. But I think, the public's perception of the middle school has definitely changed a lot, and it is wonderful. Also, staff visibility. I know that you had Ashland Day on there, and it occurred to me that I saw quite a few of our principals at Ashland Day, and that's not something I recall seeing before. And then I can appreciate, and I think I'm reusing the word, that or maybe one of our schools definitely has a different appreciation than the others do, and to have that consistency throughout the district, so every time that there's a transition, you are looking forward to that transition, because you're moving on to not bigger and better, but just older and wiser, and a different a different period in your child's life. And it's not that you're just waiting for them to get to a certain school, but you're excited about the entire journey. So, thank you.
That sounds good. No, I do really appreciate how thorough it is, and how you obviously care about this district, and just, it's 7 months, you've done so much in 7 months. And I look forward to all the opportunities you've identified here. And,
Yeah, I mean, I really appreciate it. I know this is a huge undertaking, and I know it's part of your induction program, and hopefully I'm not going to scare you to death by saying this, but it's feeling to me like something that we should be doing all the time, every year. I mean, how do you know where you're going if you don't know where you are? And maybe you got a lot of the basic groundwork done now, so that it doesn't have to be so intensive every year, but it's just feeling like it should be, part of our process moving forward. In the summer, we always do try to sit down, and we certainly do spend a lot of time organizing our goals, but this is just a much deeper, more thorough look at things. And also, as Gina said, bringing some things to light that sometimes out of, whatever, not wanting to offend, they're not really discussed as openly and in-depth as we really do need to look at certain things, like, any area where there's turnover, or any area where the scores are repeatedly year after year not doing what they should be doing. So, I'm just advocating for this general process, to continue. I just, knowing your style, I'm sure it does on some level all the time, because you're always having the meetings with different parts of the community, but that's just my initial thought. And then just sharing just some notes. This is really more for the community benefit because of what, we just went through with the whole budget process and our talks about moving forward and how we're going to do that in a way that preserves the quality of education for the students in Ashland. And I just noticed, like, on some of the things where we have opportunities, you've listed opportunities, particularly in teaching and learning, curriculum instruction and assessment, most of the stuff under opportunities, like, they're really budget-driven. We can't do more professional development without the appropriate budget support, more PD opportunities, integration of technology in the classrooms. I mean, almost everything on this list, we really need to, it needs to be part of the bigger discussion about how we move forward in Ashland with the budget constraints and being able to make sure our students have everything they need year after year and not doing what we've been doing, which is sort of the Band-Aid approach every year, and I know it's part of a bigger conversation. But then I noted on further down when you're talking about some of the opportunities for the relationships, culture and climate, none of these things in that area cost any money at all.
Right.
And actually that's very reassuring. I mean, there are things that we can always do in that respect that, are not budget-driven, that team building can always happen. It doesn't cost a dime. We've talked about it before, just the little things that you do to engage people and make them feel like they're part of the decisions. And that work can continue without any pressure from the budget or lack of budget. So I just really thinking out loud here about what I noticed as you went along about the difference between, what's in our control, what can we change, and it's not going to cost anything other than being aware of it, which you've brought the awareness to our attention, and what are the things that we really need to make budget priorities, or at least make the community aware that, without some kind of plan moving forward for some of these budget concerns, some of these things can't happen.
Right.
So, again, thank you. I thought it was very thorough and appreciate it, and I think we're going to find it very useful as a committee moving forward and how to focus ourselves, as a team. So, thank you. Do you have any other just general, from going through this whole experience, other than these details that you've shared, but?
Well, my takeaway is that we have some great opportunity here. We do have a wonderful community and district, and in the support that is there. We just have to garner it and move it forward and continue to move forward and be optimistic that we can move it forward. And that's my nature to begin with. We have some challenges ahead, but it's how we face that adversity and move on. We talk about, I remember at the high school level a lot, just talking about, the stick-with-itness approach, right? You stick with it, stick with it, stick with it. Don't cower to adversity. What are you going to do when you face it? Are you going to move forward or walk away from it? And I look forward to it. That's the, we've had those discussions. We look forward to it. It's gonna be a challenge, but that's what it's about. But we'll see. I have my induction program, so they'll take this, just so you get an idea. One of my goals, right, is the program itself, and they'll grade my work. So this will go before the new superintendent's induction program committee, and they'll look at the rubric and how we presented the information. So
You get to be a student again.
I have been quite often with this group. It's pretty intensive.
Well, I'm very excited to be a part of this process, and it's been a bit daunting and difficult lately, but especially, just knowing you and what's happened in the past, it's only been 7 months, but it seems like forever, but a very short period of time. I'm really excited about the direction that we're moving toward, and it's not going to be easy, but I think the opportunities for solutions that we have, I think it's going to be a great thing for Ashland. So, do you want to say, Mr. Adams, that you are a human being, so please take care of yourself? And I know that you want to outwork everyone.
Yeah, we're going to have a little chat about that.
No need.
We know you have a wonderful work ethic, but we want you to be healthy and.
Summer workshop, I think, will be
Yeah.
Really good.
Yes,
This
I think
summer.
we should talk about that later.
That's on the to-do list.
Yeah, that's part of our strategies for keeping superintendents. Yeah, so, anyhow.
Excellent, thank you, Mr. Adams, that was great.
Yeah. Okay, so we've moved all the way to the bottom of our action items and future agenda items. So, as soon as I get to the back page here. All right. Ongoing, right, school start times? I know that that committee's continuing to
Yes.
meet, and we'll hear again in the spring with the next phase of where you're at.
Probably in the month of March, yeah, probably in April.
Okay, we've got this MCAS scheduled for winter 2015. We're almost out of winter, so I'm guessing we need to change that to spring, but I am hoping, especially in light of, some of your findings in your report, I hope we have that conversation. Team building, that's another thing we've been talking about, and that's also
Yeah.
part of your report,
That can
so.
be summer.
You think just the summer?
I do, because I think what's important is we're going to have new members of our community, school committee. And I think in order to move our committee forward as well, we want to be inclusive of having them part of that team
Agreed.
building.
I think it's going to be a long day.
Well, yeah,
I
it
think there's
will.
going to be a lot to cover.
We might have to have more than one session.
Okay.
There will be,
Okay.
but I just think.
Good stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think
a
you
lot
have
of
to.
opportunity to learn.
Right, but I think we can't do it with the group we have now, because
Okay.
there are
Right.
people leaving.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Right. I will say, that I, especially having just been through a difficult budget process, and we've all had our independent stresses and strains over it, but I'm really proud of the way this committee functions as a group. I think that we've done really well, and we've,
Yeah. I agree.
we've held up well, and there's not any dysfunction that needs immediate attention. In my opinion. Team building is always a good thing, and certainly you can always. So, but I do want to thank everybody for just the team effort that I think that
Yeah, it was a good team
we
effort.
really have been able to all year.
Yeah.
Really, we all have our individual opinions and we stand up for what we believe independently, but I think we function well as a group and that we have kept everything very conflict-free as far as that goes. So I really appreciate all of you for that. Policy, I think it's ongoing. It looks like we're having a little bit of a breather right now.
It'll be back.
It'll be back. Okay, as promised. Jim, I know you gave some indication that you're ready to move forward on the mid-year evaluation soon.
Yeah, I just finished them last night.
Okay, okay.
So, I will email out the actual evaluation form.
Okay.
That was utilized last year, this specific form from DESI, and how it ties into the goals that you approved.
Okay. And then, from what I recall last year, remind me if this is what you all remember.
Yeah.
We'll send the form to everybody, they send it back to me, and then I compile some sort of summary, and then you and I will talk. And when we present it publicly, it's public feedback.
But this
Okay.
one's not as
This is just.
Right,
intense
it's
as.
just
not
a
as
check-in.
intense. This is
Right,
a
it's
check-in.
not
It's
as.
a check-in.
Yeah,
Right.
okay.
But I want the check-in to occur. I mean,
Right.
again,
We're behind, but.
we're behind a
that's
little
okay.
bit. and-
But it's part of the
But I'm
process.
trying to catch us up.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah,
No, and it's important to me, too, to make
Yep.
sure that we
Yep.
do everything that we're supposed to be
Right,
doing.
and then
within-
everything's
within the
done.
process,
Yep.
so, but I certainly
But it is-
understand.
it
You
is prepared.
started late, and it's all good. We know that you've been busy. The budget vote we just had, we can cross that off our list. Your entry plan report, we can cross that off as well. Multi-use path with the open space committee, they're coming in, are they coming in to present
At some
something
point.
at some point?
I talked to Joel, our beatman, last night, and I don't think they're in a hurry, and I said, we're not, I said,
When they're ready.
April or May, or, right, I think we can do that later. And so I told
Yeah,
them.
we have
wasn't
7
really-
more meetings scheduled, not that I'm
Yeah.
counting.
Yeah, but anyway, I think he was okay with that, but he needs to reach out to your office, right, Jim? Yeah.
Okay. And I know Marcia had brought up the Metro West Leadership Academy, introducing that to the rest of the school committee members, so
Right,
we'll get that on there. Is there anything else that needs to get on for us to be addressing now that we're about to move into the spring? Any school improvement plans
Yes.
need to show up somewhere?
They do, and I think we'll have to have that discussion. The school improvement plan needs to be tied to our goals.
Right.
the district improvement plan. And so that's where we have to get on a different calendar of
Right.
how we approach this.
Yeah.
So let me think about that, and we'll have that further conversation.
Right.
The school, site councils are looking at that, and I've heard also comments about having the consistency of the site councils, and we mentioned it at our
Right.
meeting on Tuesday.
Yeah.
That, you know, school improvement plans need to be similar looking, but the process of the site councils need to be similar as
Yeah.
well. So,
Right.
and again, that might be a teaching moment over the summer
Right.
with admin team, so,
Yeah, your admin
Yeah.
summer retreat.
even before any
Oh,
retreat.
Yeah.
But do you anticipate we'll have something to look at before this school year is over?
I do,
Okay.
yeah, but I'm just saying our process needs to be looked at.
Oh,
differently.
absolutely.
No, you're right, because
Absolutely.
Laura, you and I, we had talked about that,
Like in the
a
beginning
year
of
and
the
a half
year.
ago.
I
about,
know.
You know, trying to get on a different
schedule.
schedule or a different process, or, yeah, how they feed into each other.
Well, and I think to Jim's point, I mean, there's
Yeah,
been
I
an
agree.
awareness for a couple years now that our overall district strategic plan needs its little tweaking, and, you know, until, I guess, that's in place, everything else is a little disjointed, but at the same time, we just want to make sure that I know there's law about
Yes.
that
Yep.
stuff, so I want to
Yeah.
make sure that we
Yes.
are addressing it.
Yep.
And we will. So there's that, and, you know, we're already in March, but I guess sometime too, usually before board members leave, is when we do our final evaluation of the superintendent, so the people who are here can participate. So that will just be coming up in a couple of months.
Yep.
Right before the election. And so there's that, and anything else that we need to really be thinking about for spring that you guys can think of?
Student handbooks.
Handbooks,
Thank you
yeah,
for showing.
yeah.
Student handbooks.
Athletic.
Athletics usually comes in.
We've
Athletic,
got a few
I've reached
things.
out to
Yeah.
everyone tonight, trying to schedule them over your next few meetings. So preschool will be coming in,
Okay.
extended day will be coming in.
Okay.
Athletics and nutrition services.
Okay.
We've
So-
got a busy couple.
But what
Yeah, I know,
about, what
it
about the
can-
handbooks, though? Just any revisions
Every
they want
year
to
we
make?
have to
Right, they have to review
reevaluate
them, and if there are any changes.
So that they're ready for the next school year
Right.
beginning?
I wouldn't
Well, it won't
anticipate all the
be
work
like-
y'all did last year.
I
that
know,
there's-
that's what I was
No, there'll be
thinking.
very little, and
Very
there'll be
little.
some,
Yeah.
you know, when this information comes
That's
out,
right.
kind
Yeah.
of stuff that needs to be replaced.
Right.
kind of the
All that
housekeeping piece.
revamping and that revision stuff.
That probably won't be
Yeah.
necessary, but I think every year we do still have to approve them.
Part of the site council's role
Yeah.
is to review.
And then approved by school
Okay.
committee.
Right.
Right.
Okay. So
Okay.
Okay, great.
So I think that's it right now for action items and future agenda items, and if anybody has any quick updates that they want to give.
Well, I had a whole list of things we did, but
Yeah. Go ahead.
maybe the most important thing is just, well, maybe not the most important, but the tri-board, we are meeting again on March 19th.
Thank you. Yes.
So I would say that last week we had the tri-board meeting where we discussed the budget, and just phenomenal how it was solved by our team, our administrative team, superintendent, assistant superintendent, the town manager, and the assistant town manager. They worked so hard together, and they came up with a creative solution to balance this year's budget. And we still have to do those painful cuts, you know, it's not where we want it to be. But I think we have a good solution for this year, or next year, FY16, and I think we are positioned to have a better long-term. So I thought that tri-board meeting was, in my 3 years, was the best one and the most effective, and it was a great presentation of information, great questions were asked, and we came up with a solution. And then, so the tri-board, that last week, we decided we're moving on to March 19th. We'll all meet again, and it's gonna be a strategic, long-term planning as to how, for the town and the school, how are we going to move forward, sort of.
And encourage the community to come.
Yeah.
They
Yeah,
did
and
attend, for anyone who didn't
people
come to the
did. It
tri-board
was
meeting.
great.
Yes, we had people there,
We
and
had
I
people
thought it
come
made a
and
difference to
participate.
have
It did.
residents following that process.
Yeah.
So we
So-
encourage everyone to come to that.
But I left that meeting feeling really encouraged and really happy. So, that's all I will say.
You know what, in that spirit, I know, Mr. Adams, you sent us a Chapter 70 letter, or I forget how it was termed, but you know, maybe it's a discussion for another time about, we have our LIB guide for the school start time committee. Maybe some of that information that the community might want to understand a little bit better. I only got through a couple pages of it, but it was interesting information to better understand sort of, what determines.
Let me see if I can have a conversation with our LIB guide expert, Ms. Mary Beth Gallant at the high school. See if she can help me set something up.
Okay. I did attend the Minda Site Council. We discussed park and the budgetary impacts for that school. We are preparing a presentation for the staff regarding data and survey results from the school start time committee, so that's ongoing, and attended the Decisions at Every Turn meeting on Tuesday. They're continuing to work on creating a diversion program, and they have a couple of community programming events coming up, one of which is digital safety, and then also perception of marijuana use in Ashland, both a youth event and a parent discussion. And then they were able to hire a drug-free community coordinator.
Yeah, nothing additional, same budget meetings, lots of budget meetings over the past several weeks, past couple of months. And again, another shout out to the high school play, Guys and Dolls. It was really just fantastic. I brought a whole group of kids, like 8 or 9 high school kids, and we all loved it. So, good job.
Great.
That's it?
That's it. I got it.
All right, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Good night, Ashland.
Okay. Laurie?
All righty.